New Tool Day Tuesday, where I share with you guys unique or useful tools that I myself use that I think you might be interested in. You're looking at a bearing packer, and this is made by ZooYL, and you're probably thinking, didn't we already review this at one other point on this channel? And you would be right, with a minor exception. When we first reviewed this packer, there was always something in the corner of my mind that I thought ZooYL kind of missed. So I reached out to ZooYL, I sent them this particular email, and I told them they probably should have added a Zerk fitting so it would be easily filled from the bottom. To my surprise, ZooYL reached out to me and they said, hey, why don't you take a look at this bearing packer and do another review? So that's what we're going to do today. On the left is the bearing packer that I have been using. It is ZooYL's and it works pretty good, except for the fact that it's a little difficult to fill. In this bearing packer, which is not ZooYL, it's just a cheap over-the-counter bearing packer that you can buy in Menards, what has a feature that makes it easy to fill. When you remove the cap and you unscrew the top, there's a Zerk fitting right here, and that Zerk fitting allows you to pump grease into it and fill the bottom of the canister. The original ZooYL packer does not have a Zerk fitting on the top, nor is there a Zerk fitting on the bottom, and pretty much the only way to fill it is to kind of scoop it in or pump it in and then put the top back in, which is what I did to fill this the first time. And on the new release of the ZooYL packer, they added the Zerk fitting on the bottom, which makes it really easy to pump grease into the canister. And another minor little change that they have done is they reinforced the top of the lid here. There's a slot in this lid which allows you to take the lid off of the handle if you need to, but they've reinforced the ends a little bit and put a hole there to keep it from splitting even more. As you can see, the original design was not reinforced, and my guess is they probably had customers complaining about it cracking all the way out to the end. If you haven't watched my original video where I compare the standard packer to a ZooYL packer, well, I think you should really watch it because ZooYL does some really cool things that make this pretty unique and easy to use. On a standard packer, you drop the bearing down inside and you screw this down on top, but once you tighten it up, you have to put a lot of pressure straight down on top of this handle to shove the grease up inside that bearing to pack it. ZooYL's version is so much easier because all you have to do is unscrew the T-handle, drop the bearing down inside, and tighten that T-handle back on. The more you tighten it, it's going to automatically shove the grease through the holes on the bottom and pack the bearing for you. There's no more putting your weight on top of the handle and shoving down on it. It makes the whole process of packing a bearing, well, very easy. So let's go ahead and test that feature out by putting our grease gun on it. We're going to pull the trigger. Now I have a battery operated grease gun, but you don't need a battery operated grease gun. Let's go ahead and fill it. And that is so much easier than trying to scoop it in from the top. And once you have it full of grease, well, it's ready to pack a bearing. Just drop the bearing straight in the top like that and tighten the T-handle up. Once that T-handle gets snugged up, you're going to give it a couple of good hard cranks, and eventually you're going to see grease coming out of the top of the bearing. And look at that, we already have grease coming right out the top of the bearing. The bearing is packed. So you can see grease has come out the top of each of the bearing through the cage, so we know that the bearing is well packed, and from this point just take off some of the extra grease and smear it around the outside. You're ready to drop this into the race and use this bearing. So what are my final thoughts of the new design? Well, I really like it. That grease fitting was really needed for somebody like me that may be doing a lot of bearings, and we need to be able to fill this quickly with our grease guns. I've always been impressed with this particular design because it does not take a lot of effort to pack that bearing, and the old design where you really have to put a lot of weight on it and press down really hard to get it to pack the bearing. We've done a lot of ZooYL reviews in the past, and that's only because ZooYL does something a little different. They always design their tools that are a little bit unique, and they're always trying to solve problems, and that's what I like about the company. I am impressed to see these changes in this tool because that tells me that they're listening to their customers. It also tells me they're willing to make changes to satisfy their customers, and that means this company is probably going to be around for a very long time because their tools are always going to improve. If you like these types of videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. Take a look at some of my other videos. At the very least, you might be entertained.